Well, welcome back to another Coffee and a Chat, and welcome to 2026. Today is New Year's Day, and we made it another year, yay. So last night, I don't know how you rang in the new year, but Marvin and I, it wasn't planned, but we ended up ringing in the new year, sitting and talking, reflecting on what God did for us in 2025 and looking for the things that he's going to be doing in our lives in 2026. Pretty sure that 2026 is going to be a year of some change and some transitions as God moves us into the next season of our lives. So we look forward to it, because when God's in charge, I mean, he does a good job. When we're in charge, we mess it up. But when he's in charge, he does a really great job. And Marvin and I are both committed to having God in charge. And I will say, too, that it was really nice to ring in the new year like that. I was surprised we were still awake, but while we were talking, I'm like, we probably passed midnight. And Marvin looked at his watch, yeah, about 26 minutes ago, and we're like, wow. So it just was a really sweet way of doing it, the reflecting on what was and what God had done, and then looking forward to the things that he's going to do. So I'm glad you made it here. And doesn't that new year always just kind of give you that feeling of a fresh start and a new beginning? And it's kind of like, because I know we were talking about that last night, just spiritually, the growth that we've had in this last year and what we want to see in our lives this year. And that, we want to do better in 26 than we did in 25. So it was to me, it was a very precious way to bring in the new year. So anyway, so here we are. And as Marvin and I were reflecting last night on different things that have taken place over the year, because we had some things that we had to kind of battle through, not with each other. We're on the same team, but against other things. We had definitely experienced most of 2025 with one situation that kind of caught us by surprise. We didn't know it was going to happen, and it definitely was dealing with an enemy in our life that we didn't realize we had, and there was a lot of battles. And in the course of that battle, it kept coming back to that Marvin and Angie are powerless. Marvin and Angie can't do anything about this. The other party is going to get whatever they want, however they want. And in a lot of ways, it looked that way. But as I shared in the video before this, I believe it was, that God used the money of our enemy to pay off our mortgage. And, so what looked like a bad thing actually turned out to be a blessing. And we just were talking about how faithful God is, how we can get caught up in thinking that, all hope is lost, and and there's no way out. And then here God shows up, and everything is actually put into a better situation than what it was. And so anyway, this morning I was kind of reflecting on this, and and how God has this way of showing up. And it reminded me of a time many years ago when my kids some of them were still young at home, some were young adults that had moved out on their own and all. But we had where we lived, we had a terrible, terrible freeze, and the temperatures actually went down to like 20 below zero. And so people's pipes were frozen and everything. And my husband, at the time, my first husband and I, we lived out in the country, and our son was still living at home. And anyway, our pipes didn't freeze, but our home was set up a little bit differently so it could handle cold like that. And where our kids that didn't live at home, that lived in town, their homes, like our one daughter, she and her husband lived in a very old little home, and it wasn't very well insulated. And I think our other daughter lived in an apartment. I can't remember now. It was a long time ago. But anyway, their pipes froze. And so they called us up and they're like, can we come out there to stay? And, can we, come, for a while until we get water, because there's no thawing these, at these temperatures and stuff. In fact, some cars wouldn't even start. It was pretty bad. Now, during the day, it would get warmer, but at night, it was going down below zero. And like this one particular night, it was, after the kids had all got there, it went down to 20 below. And I remember stepping out the front door and trying to take a breath, and it hurt. I couldn't even hardly breathe. That air was so cold. And I was like back in going, okay, yeah, we're not doing that. And so as the temperatures started to come up, they never got above freezing, but they got up warm enough that then we had snow on top of all this. All in all, I think the kids were out there with us for a couple of weeks, with us all trying to survive, but we were out in the country. And so we lived on a road that had no lines on it, that didn't go anywhere. It ended in an elderly woman's driveway that raised turkeys and peacocks and geese and stuff. And the road actually really went nowhere. And so it wasn't traveled, and the county sure wasn't going to go out and plow it. And we did have one older neighbor that he had a tractor, and he would a lot of times go out and kind of clear the road if we had some snow and stuff. But this was, I think, more than what he could handle, and he was elderly. And so he didn't want to go out in it. And so our road wasn't getting plowed, and our driveway to come back to our home was 1/10 of a mile. It was a pretty long driveway. And so we ended up with all our cars snowed in. But in town where they were plowing roads and clearing things, businesses were open, life continued. Not school. School was shut down, but the businesses kept going. So my husband and my daughters and my son-in-law and all, they needed to go to work because work was happening, and they could not get out of our place. They were out there. I mean, you're not going to shovel by hand, that long of a driveway, even though my son was out there trying to do it. And I think he had his sisters out there kind of helping him at times too, just even digging the cars out. And so my husband thought, well, if we could get one car dug out, and we had one that was a front wheel drive. So he goes, that'll work the best. We'll try and get that thing dug out. But I'm telling you, time just kept on going, and everybody, we were starting to run low on food because there was a lot more people at our house than what usually were there. And so we weren't prepared to feed that many people. We kind of needed to go get some groceries. I mean, it was just kind of getting to this point where we needed to be able to get out. And as hard as we tried, and everybody doing all their things, we couldn't get out. And we had a couple of grandkids that were little at the time, and they just wanted to go out and play in the snow. They didn't care. And, there just was a lot going on, and it just was getting frustrating. And I was standing at the living room window, and I was looking out at them, and it just was like, Lord, this feels so hopeless. Like we are stuck here. And it was like a couple of feet of snow. It's like, this isn't even when it warms up or a Chinook comes through or whatever. It's not going to clear out real fast. This is a lot of snow, and it's more than we can handle by hand, even with all hands on deck. This is just too much, and we need help. We need somebody to rescue us. Lord, would you please make a way and rescue us? And I mean, those words were barely out of my mouth, or however I said it, because it was a long time ago, and I'm not going to remember exactly, but anyway, I was asking God to meet this need for us. And as soon as those words were out of my mouth, I hear a motor, and here coming around the corner of my property, and where my house was this tractor with a snowplow on the front of it, a big tractor that could handle it. And I'm like, whoa. And I happened to recognize the guy on the tractor was a man who had worked at our house like that summer before we had to put in a whole new septic system. And it was his company that did that. And he did most of the work by himself, and really nice guy. And I'm like, that's the guy that put our septic system in. And so he comes through and he digs out the blows around the cars and stuff so they could get them dug out. And actually, I think they got 2 cars going. And he opened up our whole driveway so they could come and go. And then when he got all done, he came up to the house, and I ran out there. I'm like, oh my word. I was just asking God if he would send someone, or if he would open this up somehow, if he would solve this problem, because we weren't getting anywhere. And there you were. The words were barely out of my mouth, and there you were. I see you coming around the corner of the house. And he goes, yeah. He goes, it's so funny, because he was this really nice Christian guy. And he said, I was actually helping somebody else out around here, and I got them dug out just fine. And and he goes, and I thought about you guys and how you were on this road that goes nowhere, that nobody maintains. And I thought, I bet they're stuck and with their long driveway. And he goes, I just felt, you know what? I have a lot of extra time because the other job went so fast. I'm just going to go over there and see if they need some help. And so he goes, and and so here I was, and he goes, that was God, and I'm like, well, how much do we owe you and stuff? And he's like, nah, this wasn't a job, this was ministry. And I totally get that. I had somebody trying to hire me for something here a little ways back, and it was like, no, I'm just going to go ahead and take care of this for you. And they're like, well, no, I'll pay you. And it's like, no, because this isn't a job, this is ministry. And I knew that I could minister to this person's need, and they didn't have a lot of money themselves. And I know what it is to be in that way. And it's like, getting money wasn't the most important. Meeting a person's need was. And this gentleman was that way that day. I didn't come to do this to try and make money. I came to be a blessing, to minister to you. And I praise God, and it went so fast. But I was thinking about that this morning, and how many times, even this last year, that there have been some things, some stuff I was taking care of that I had to do, some things that just, because of miscommunications, I had to do some reports that didn't get done the way they needed to be done because of miscommunication, and having to redo things, and just the frustration, and sometimes feeling like I was in this never-ending loop of getting something taken care of, and just being able to trust God with it, and to give it to him. But yet the Lord has taken care of me, and he's given me peace in non-peaceful moments. And I'm like, it's just like that tractor showing up, there's this need, this frustration, and I recognize, or Marvin and I recognize, we're helpless. We can't do this. We are powerless to do anything different. And we cry out to the Lord. And it's not that he even always shows up the way we expect him to, because sometimes, like how our mortgage got paid off, was not to what we were expecting. And I don't think that's even the way we would have chosen to do it if we could have planned it out. But it's the perfect thing, because it was God's plan. And just this morning, when I was doing my time with the Lord and all, just remembering how many times over the course of my life, starting back when I was in my mother's womb, my life was at risk. But how God has protected me since before my birth, and how he's walked with me. And when I've needed him, he doesn't always show up the way I want him to, or even when I want him to. But what was that? That old saying, God's never too early, he's never too late, but he's always right on time. And, even with the situation of paying off the mortgage, there was some foul ups with that, and it kept getting drug out and not done. But yet, when that mortgage finally was paid off, it was the perfect time. So that, as I go into 2026, I'm like trying to remember that the most important thing is that I'm being obedient and trusting God. Okay. And then knowing that he always shows up. He's never really left me hung out to dry. I felt like he did a few times, but then when the story is told, when it finally that chapter gets concluded, I see that, no, he never hung me out to dry. I was safe with him all the time. And I was never really alone. And so, yeah, there may be a few tractors in my future that will be coming around the corner of the house as the words are coming out of my mouth, because that's the God who I serve and who loves me and cares about me, and he loves you and he cares about you. And we live in a world, whether we want to admit it or not. Some people don't want to admit it. I don't see how you can miss it. A lot of things are changing. A lot of justice is missing. There's a lot of craziness going on, things that don't make sense, things that are difficult. Prices continue to grow. I don't care how many times somebody tries to say, oh, no, it's really not that bad. Yeah, it is. And because I don't care what they say, it is. I know what it is when I go to the grocery store. I know what it is when I have to purchase something, and how much more it costs now than ever before. But I also know that no matter what it costs, no matter what is involved with it, my God is capable. And he does not fail me. He hasn't failed me yet, and he's not going to. So whatever is waiting for me in 2026, whatever might be frustrating or maybe even a little scary, or stressful, or things that might want to give me anxiety or whatever, it's all good. It's all okay, because I serve the one true God who will not fail me. Whether if he does it in a way other than what I thought he should do it, doesn't mean he failed me. He didn't fail me at all. He still took care of me. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and I can't remember how the conversation went, but I was like, I know God is, he's told me he's going to do this and take care of it. He just didn't bother to give me the details of how he's going to do it. I don't know why he doesn't run that past me. And we were laughing because, there's that thing in us, that human thing in us that wants to know and understand and kind of still feel in control of things. And when you just turn it all over to God and you don't know what the plan is and you just trust that he will take care of it, that he does have you. That can be a little frightening at times, and so she and I always laugh at it. We have for years, when you have this, because I come up with these great ideas. Okay, this is how I used to pray. Lord, here's the problem. This is what needs to be taken care of. And here's how you need to take care of it. And, and the joke is he never does it the way I told him. He always had a different, better plan. So I've grown up enough and gotten old enough and maybe a little bit of wisdom to know that, yeah, he knows better than I do. So I trust him. In fact, I was praying about something the other day and I go, Lord, I don't even know, how you need to do this. So I'm not going to even try to be the old Angie that's going to tell you how. I just know you know what to do about it. And whatever your plan is, whatever your decision is, I stand in agreement with you because I can blindly trust you. I don't have to have all the details. You don't have to gain my trust because you've already proven yourself to me so many times. So going into 2026, today's day number 1. And it's that reminder that whatever comes my way this year, it's going to be okay. I can trust God with it, whatever it is. And I just want to share that with you, that if you will trust him and you will put your faith in him, then you can trust him to take care of it. He will take care of whatever it is that comes your way. Because there are people that are going to face loss this year. There are people that are going to face burdens that they didn't see coming. There are so many things that are going to happen in all of our lives because it's always that way. Things that we didn't see coming. And we don't have to let it knock the wind out of us. Not if we know who we serve. All right. I love you guys. I hope you're having a wonderful New Year's. And I hope to talk to you again real soon. All right. Love you. Talk to you later.